Today we're chatting about the Norwegian Bliss, what we loved and what we didn't.
Welcome to Vacation Mavens, a family travel podcast with ideas for your next vacation and tips to get you out the door. Here are your hosts, Kim from Stuffed Suitcase and Tamara from We Three Travel.
Our presenting sponsor is the Family Backpack, a time and stress-saving tool for parents researching and planning family vacations. The Family Backpack has researched and curated over 2,000 posts from over 200 blogs to provide parents the best of family travel content from over 600 destinations worldwide, all in one easily searchable place. Whether you're trekking around your own city, road tripping with your kids, or flying around the world, visit thefamilybackpack.com for itineraries, tips, packing lists, tons of travel information, and more.
So Kim, it's so good to talk to you today about the Norwegian Bliss, but since I got to see you just a couple of days ago in Seattle and I told you things, now I have to remember what we talked about and make sure that we share it all with our listeners, because I feel like I probably should have not said anything to you about my trip, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. You should have kept your mouth quiet so that then it was all new information. But I'm really excited for us to chat with our listeners today and share all about this brand new cruise ship and your cruise to Alaska, because I'm really excited about hearing about some of the stuff you did for that. We didn't get a lot of time to talk. I think it's a good opportunity. And I know I've briefly chatted about the fact that I went on the Bliss, but just to kind of catch everyone up, when the Norwegian Bliss Cruise Ship moved into port in Seattle before they started their Alaskan route, they ran some media previews of the ship. So just so you guys have a heads up, that's what I was on. So I was a guest of the ship, and you, Tamara, actually booked one of their Alaska cruises from Seattle that was a 7-day cruise. And so you got to ride as a paying customer. So
you say it like it's such a privilege.
I know. Well, no, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant I wanted people to know, because there's stuff that, you brought up that because I wasn't on a cruise when it was in operation, they were still deciding some stuff when we were on the cruise ship, and you got it fully like once it was actually in service.
Yeah.
So
I think that's important for people to know, kind of like with anything, that when you see, bloggers or influencers that do something that is like a pre-opening or, special event, sometimes the experience is slightly different. And it's not just about like paying or not paying, but there are some things, like you said, that hadn't even been fully opened or worked out when you were on there. So I was able to see like kind of the real deal. And, maybe things will change after this first season and as they move it into the Caribbean, but I can definitely share all of our thoughts. And I think it's also good that, like, for us, it was our first family cruise, and you have done, as everyone knows, like a few more, and with some different cruise lines and Norwegian also in the past. So you're really able to like compare and contrast, what is this experience different versus, others. Whereas for us, it's very much like, okay, is this what all cruising is like? Or is this just this boat or just this cruise line? I mean, it's been 20 years since I've been on a cruise. So lots of change since then.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, it's been 3 years since we were on a Norwegian cruise line as paying guests. So like on a full functional ship. So things have changed. It sounds like with the cruise line even since then. But yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting about it.
I would love to hear just like some of your overall thoughts about like the Bliss in particular versus, like, I think you'd been on the Norwegian Pearl before, or some of the other boats that you've been on recently, like the Celebrity and the Disney. Like, just what are some of your overall thoughts about the experience?
Well, the Bliss, see, one thing I actually have really appreciated about we were on the Norwegian Getaway and we've been on the Bliss, which are two of their, I think they call them the breakaway class, and then the Bliss is considered a big breakaway plus class. And, maybe I'm just used to ship layouts and cruise ships don't throw me, but none of the ships, including like the Celebrity ship, although that was about half the passenger capacity of what we were on with the Bliss, none of them seem huge to me, even though they're considered kind of some of the larger in the fleet. I would say the Celebrity was kind of like the Pearl in sizing. So those are about, I would say about 2,500 guests, I think. And then the Bliss is, I believe, 4,200 or 4,500.
Yeah, I think it was right capacity. You're right over 4,000 because I remember altogether there's like 1,700 or 1,800 staff. So altogether it can be about 5,700 on the ship.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I like about Norwegian and what I've always felt very at home is even when you're on kind of that big ship, like we felt this way on the Getaway and then again on the Bliss, it doesn't feel huge to me. I feel like things have their place and we kind of get accustomed to where we're going and you just walk around, and I feel like things are cohesive in how they're grouped. And so, yeah, that's one thing I've enjoyed and it does not bother me. Some people think cruise ships are just too big, but I'm like, give me all the space because I don't want to sit with 4,000 people in the same space. So
yeah,
I want larger cruise ships, but yeah. So that's kind of some of my initial thoughts on that. I don't know how the Disney one compares. We were on the Dream and I can't even think of what its capacity was like. But again, yeah, we have yet to be on a cruise that we didn't get along with the layout. I have heard that some people say like the Norwegian Epic is a very weird layout and they kind of got rid of that right away. I think the Epic is the only ship that has a layout like that. It kind of had these neighborhoods and they were repeated. So the idea was that you would always hang out in your little neighborhood, but I don't think that was a success.
It's kind of like the all-inclusive resorts, like beaches and Turks and Caicos, right? It has like the French Village and the Italian and like different things like that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I think that's what it's like. I can't specify because I haven't been on it, but if I recall. So yeah. But that's my initial thought, kind of, I guess, if that's answered your question.
Yeah, it did. I mean, for us, it was all new. And so I definitely agree that it didn't feel that huge, except when you were in like the Garden Cafe buffet trying to get a seat for breakfast. And then there were a million people like zooming around. You're like, oh, get me out of here.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, it didn't feel like overly huge. There were times where it felt crowded, like when we had to do our, like the Coast Guard drill, in the beginning, they jammed our section was all in the cavern, which is like where the Beatles sing. And it was literally like standing room only, like bodies pressed up against each other. And we're like, get me out of here. So claustrophobic. They're like, only like 15 minutes. Then we're going to do our demonstration. And we're just like, get me out. That and just like the line getting off the boat, which I didn't anticipate at all. So there were things like that, but overall it wasn't like crowds and crowds and you saw some of the same people, but not really. So I can see your point. But I think for me, like the thing about a cruise is not to do with the cruise line at all. It's just the fact that like, I'm so used to traveling in a place where you stay in the place for a few days and you really get to explore. You go out and you have dinner at the local restaurants and then you get to do, just a lot more walking around and tours and excursions and attractions. And I'm so used to that. So to be where I'm spending actually more of the time, if you look at it as like a hotel, like more of the time, like in the hotel and very little time in the destination. Because I think even when we first talked about cruise ships, I always said like the way I looked at cruises was always like, okay, what itinerary, what destinations do I want to go to? And then look at the boat. Whereas I think others look at what is the boat experience that I want? And then where does it go? So I feel like I'm just coming at it from a different perspective because I so enjoy like the destinations. And so for me, the boat was like, how do I get from one place to the other? And, in the particular cruise that we did, and we knew that this was the case, but when you go on an Alaskan cruise from Seattle, you have 2 days at sea, so you really are spending a lot of time on the boat. And that's why I picked the Bliss, because I'm like, okay, the boat does matter in this case. And I want to have like a new boat with lots of activities, but it's still like, I just enjoy being in a place more. So for me, that was like the biggest downside of a cruise. And it wasn't, that wasn't particular to the Norwegian Bliss. Although I do think like maybe I would like more of the small ship experience, different, a little better. Because some of like, we can talk about this as we get into detail of different things, but like just some of the entertainment and things, it was just so different, and because we don't do a lot of like all inclusives, which, a cruise kind of feels like an all inclusive on the water, but it's its own thing too, so it was just different. And I think a lot of the times we were just like, huh. Like it was just like, okay, well, that's different, and it's an adjustment. So
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's one of the big things. I know Amber and I both brought up a long time ago. I can't even know what episode that is, when we talked about cruising and cruising with kids. And she was the same way as me, is that lately, now that we've gotten more accustomed to cruising, we choose the ship and then we try and, make the dates work. And you end up just going wherever that ship is going at that moment.
Yeah.
That, if we are sick of going to the Caribbean, then yeah, we would do a lesser known ship if we're really like, okay, we want to take another cruise, but we don't want to go back to those same ports of call. But other times it's just kind of a way, you just make it work with where you're going to stop. But I do agree that you don't have a lot of time. On the Disney cruise, we went to their private island, which is Castaway Cay, and we did the 5K run that they have, and then we kind of went back and ate, and we had like a little time on the beach where we went snorkeling and stuff, but then it was almost like, okay, time to get back to the ship. And I've seen other people's posts about everything there is to do on that island, and there just wasn't enough time. And so I totally understand what you're saying about the, wanting to have more time in destinations. And I do think that as long as, it feels like 8 to 5 is a lot of time. It doesn't once you're off the ship and actually have to think about getting back on. Time goes quick. So,
yeah. And I will say for this Alaskan itinerary, and a friend of mine had warned me about it. It's just another part of going from Seattle is that you do have less time in ports. You go to fewer ports and you have less time in those ports. And it's an important thing to look at. And because maybe the celebrity that goes out of Alaska or the princess has like slightly longer time in port. But with us, we had, so the first stop was Ketchikan, and we were there from 8 to 3 maybe. So we had to be back on the boat by 2:30. So we did a morning excursion, and we came back and we ate lunch, and then we had to be back on the boat. Yeah. And then the next one was even shorter. It was 8 to 1, I think. And so we, by the time you get off the boat, and we did just sea kayaking, we got back. We didn't even have time for lunch or shopping or even seeing the town at all. We had to go right directly onto the boat. And then Skagway was a longer thing, but we picked a longer excursion because we wanted to like get out into Alaska, into the countryside. So we did like a train, and then we did a hike, which is like a 4-hour hike. And so we got back. It was one of those times where I am so glad that we booked through the boat, because they're guaranteed to wait for you, because we got back like after we were supposed to be all aboard. So like we were supposed to be all aboard at 5, and I think we got back at like 5:05, 5:10, and we had to like run down the whole we didn't run because we knew they had to wait for us, but you still like walk quickly down this like long pier to get on. So, even that day we didn't have any time in the town or anything, just because we were doing the excursion all day. So yeah, it goes fast for sure.
Well, so knowing that, as we've both chatted about, there is a lot of time on the ship. That's one of the reasons I've always said that now we splurge for the balcony, because we do spend a lot of time in our cabin. So let's maybe chat about our room configurations. And yeah, especially since it's your guys' first family cruise, what did you think about your cabin? Because you guys had a balcony as well.
Yeah, we were a midship balcony. I think our room was 9780, although I always want to say 9870. So it was one of those. But we were right near the elevator, which was good. And it was actually quiet. Yeah. It was not an adjoining room, so we didn't have that door or that noise. It was actually really quiet the whole time. I was pretty surprised. And so I had watched your video before I got on, and I think you had like a mini suite, which is maybe like slightly larger, but not too much. No. So the setup is similar. And it wasn't as bad as I thought, because after I watched your video, I was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? Like 3 full-size people in this room. But really, once we got unpacked, which surprisingly, I was able to unpack everything and get it into the closet, like even the few shelves, just, stacking. And I did bring one of the over-the-door hangers. There's a couple like hooks there that I put like our shoes and stuff in. And then I did a couple of those magnetic hooks for the bathroom door where we hung our jackets. But I just said, look, guys, you got to keep things in their place. Like, because I happen to live with a couple of slightly messy people. And I'm the opposite of that. So it's like, I cannot be like tripping over shoes. Like there's no room for that, but if you keep everything in your place, it really wasn't too bad. I mean, when you walk in ours, there was the bathroom on the right, which it was like, there was actually a decent amount of storage in there. And the shower, wasn't a square. It was like a little rounded, but there's, even plenty of room for Glenn to like move around. I've been in some like little showers where you feel like you can't even turn around. And then there was like the desk on the left, and then the couch, which was made up into a day bed, I guess, for Hannah. But once it was made up, it stayed a bed the whole time. So there was nowhere to sit but on the beds. And then our king bed, and then the balcony. So I think your format was like slightly reversed, but it was fine. And we did end up, people are like, oh, you don't really spend time in the room because there's so much to do on the boat. We actually did spend a fair amount of time in the room because there are times when we just needed to get away from people, or there just wasn't room to sit, like in the observation lounge, like the day that we were cruising in the inner passage and like going up to a glacier, which we ended up having to turn around because of the weather. So we didn't actually get all the way to the glacier, but we saw icebergs and, it was beautiful scenery that were going by. I went up to go into that observation lounge, and I mean, it was wall to wall people. And I'm like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Everyone was there to see, and it was just wall to wall people. So I'm like, I'm going downstairs. I sat in the room. I put on the TV that has like the bridge cam so you can see what's in front of the boat. And then I sat, on the balcony or looking out, at the balconies. So we didn't really use the balcony as much as I would have hoped because it was really windy.
Yeah.
And a little rainy, and I can handle like the cold, but not like the rainy or super windy. So there were a couple, a few times, and I'm glad we had it for the light. But I didn't sit out there as much as I liked, but it really was comfortable.
Nice.
And yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I wouldn't, by the end, I'm like, oh, I just need a little space, but to consider that we were there for a week, where usually we don't stay in one place for a week when we go on a trip. So it was fine. I thought it was fine. What about you?
Yeah, so our mini suite, this was our first time, and I wasn't sure what to expect with the mini suite, but all it is a little bit of extra room in the bathroom, mainly. And we had the wall, the short wall instead of kind of a corner. We had the whole space as a shower, and it has like an upgraded, like fancy shower head system, which if anybody watches that video on my blog, it shows kind of a little bit. But other than that, the rooms are pretty similar. Now, you had 3 people, so it's interesting because they gave you then a 3-person cabin.
No, I picked one that was a 4-person cabin because I thought, maybe it'll have a little extra space, so.
Yeah, it normally has to, Yeah, it normally has to do with how the beds, they have a drop-down bunk bed out of the ceiling for the 4 people.
Ours had that. It was just never dropped down because we didn't need it.
But I'm really confused about why they didn't make up, because one of the things we love is our bed, the bed for the girls and everything was made up every morning. And so there was a couch in there every morning. So sounds like your room steward didn't do a great job of, resetting your room, because that's one of the things I like about it is that everything gets reset.
That was one thing that I kind of expected when we came back the first day, is that it would turn back into a couch, because, the first day I was like, okay, we're going to dinner. I can't quite figure out where everything is to turn that into a bed, but we ran into the steward in the hall and he's like, oh, I'll be making up your 3rd bed. So I'm like, okay. And so the next day I expected it to go back to a couch, but it never did. So,
it should have. And if you would have known that, then you could have mentioned something like, can you be making that? Because they're supposed to reset the room every morning. Every morning, typically they wait for people to go to breakfast, and then they kind of make up the room. And that's one of the things I love, because everything kind of gets tidied. And so like if you can keep your people putting things in their place, and as long as you have like I recommend on my packing list, the magnetic hooks and the shoe bed, like as long as things have a place to go. And it's nice because suitcases you can slide under the main bed, and so you can get stuff out of the main area.
And we had 4 pretty large suitcases, and they all fit under that bed. So that was not a problem. And then we just kind of tucked the backpacks next to the bed. And then they were like little tiny nightstand cubbies. Yeah. I mean, not for Hannah, but at least for Glenn and I.
Yeah, it's nice. So it all works out if you can keep it tidied. But then our room steward did do it where, it's a couch each day. So it's nice because you can go back to the room. And I agree, we have to get away from people for a while. And so we like to go hang out in our room and read, or just, sit on our phones if we have Wi-Fi, or even if we're playing games or whatever, and just relax. So it's kind of nice. One thing I wanted to mention though on the bathrooms is, I think after now recently this year being on a Disney cruise, the Celebrity cruise, and the Norwegian cruise, I have to say with bathrooms, Celebrity is my absolute favorite. They did have kind of the corner shower, feel, but it was a little bigger than I expected. So it was roomy enough. It was fine. But they had tons of cubbies and storage space. So I was able to put so you could just keep your vanity kind of clean, and it felt like things were in order. And then Disney had a few of them, like storage space as well. And then Disney was the one that had, in our family cabin, we actually had one bathroom was the toilet and vanity, and another was a vanity in the shower. So there's 2 bathrooms. So for families, it was really nice because somebody could be doing makeup and getting ready or going to the bathroom while another person was in the shower.
Yeah.
And so then of those 3, then my least favorite is Norwegian, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a very basic, slab vanity with a slab shelf underneath, and toilet and shower. So that's the one thing I would say is that I think Celebrity and Disney were better in that aspect.
Yeah, it's good to know. Yeah. That's one thing we liked about being close to the stairs and the elevator, and we were only 1 floor up from a lot of the restaurants. So if somebody was in the bathroom and somebody else had to use the bathroom, you could just pop down 1 floor and go to
nice.
because they have the the public restrooms at each floor. So
yeah, that is a huge benefit. We actually on our Disney cruise, we were the cabin actually facing the opening of the elevator, and I was dreading it because it was assigned to us for a media event. So I didn't choose our cabin, and I thought, oh my goodness, it's going to be so loud, kids running up and down the stairs and all these, I just was sure that it was going to be horrendous. But I thought it's only a 3-day cruise, but it was so quiet. And yeah, we repeatedly try to choose cabins that are about 2 doors away from the a main set of elevators, because it's really, really helpful.
And I kind of liked being on 9 for this cruise because so many of the restaurants are on 8 or 7 or even 6, so it was really easy to get out for excursions and to go to dinner. It was definitely, we used the stairs a lot, but just because the elevators get backed up. And so to go up to breakfast on 16, that was a bit of a hike. Yep. And then we like to go to the observation lounge on 15. So that would, tire us out a bit. But I think if I was going on the Caribbean one, I would want to be up higher, just be closer to the pool deck. But for us on the Alaskan one, it worked out really well.
Nice. Yeah, we were on 11, I believe. But yeah, and so we were kind of in the middle. So we were going up and down and up and down. And we end up using the stairs a lot too, because elevators can get frustrating. I do like on the elevators oh, wait, that was on Celebrity. I don't think it's at the Bliss. You don't have the clear see-through, right? No, it is. Yeah. Oh. So at Celebrity, they have the middle elevators are see-through. So you kind of see a lobby and atrium. It's kind of fun. But yeah, I think that's one thing, kind of finding your positioning. And I'm glad to hear that you didn't have, I guess that knowing that now how quiet it is, even if you're next to the elevators, I always worry about being above or below restaurants. I think below would be more of a bother just because of chairs pushing and scumping, kitchen noises and stuff. I just wouldn't want to.
Yeah, ours was totally fine. We were actually right above Food Republic because when you were on our balcony, you could look down, and Food Republic has an outdoor space that's covered, or it's a greenhouse kind of thing. So I could look down at their roof and into the restaurant. And we didn't hear any noise from that at all.
Nice. They did a good job there then. Yeah, we actually were on the other side of the ship then because we had a view you could see the slide, the clear slide shoots out over. Okay. And so we could kind of look up and see the slide. But due to it being, Seattle and Pacific Northwest, we didn't really see a lot of people doing that. It was a little chilly.
No, especially on ours. They even end up closing the racetrack and the laser tag some days just because of the wind and the the rain. So yeah, I don't think many people use the pool. I mean, occasionally you saw somebody, but I mean, they were crazy. It was more like going in the hot tub, but I wouldn't want to get out of the hot tub, you know?
Yeah,
So,
no, exactly. Well, and that is something to be said, just mentioning to people, there is a whole area called the Haven, just as a heads up that Norwegian does, which is kind of it's a premium class. So it's like the luxury option, and it's a private space that you have to have a key card to enter, and they actually have their own 2-level observation deck. So I wonder, when you guys were going through the inside passage, I would have loved to have seen how crowded that observation area felt, or because the whole idea is that it's a lot less cabins, and so it's more space and exclusive, and they have a private restaurant that you can use as well. And they get a book, like their restaurant reservations and excursions and stuff. They get a book earlier than anyone else. And they get VIP seats at the show and all of that. So it's definitely a luxury and splurge, but
they apparently have a butler too.
Butler.
We met a couple in the wine bar. When we came back from one of our excursions, Hannah went up to the room and we went to get a glass of wine. And when we met someone there that they were staying in the Haven, they're like, this is the first time we've been out of the Haven. Like they just loved it so much that they stayed there the whole time. They're like, yeah, we have, our butler brings me a turkey sandwich every day at 3. He was
it's private butler service. And they also have an indoor garden, I guess, pool area, but I think it's just a small little shallow
like a
pool.
sun deck.
Yeah. And so that is one thing as well that, I was just thinking to myself, if you are doing Seattle and Alaska, and this is kind of a bucket list kind of trip for you, you might look at how much that upgrade is and if it's worth it to splurge, because I wonder how much that would pay off when you have a colder climate and you want kind of more of indoor viewing and all of that. Versus
I remember
Caribbean, you want to be out on the pool decks and all that.
When after you book, they send you these emails like you can bid on upgrades. So I was like, oh, let me see what it would be to upgrade to the Haven. Yeah, so you can bid on different upgrades, but there's a minimum bid. And so I think with the Haven, the minimum bid was, I don't know, it was maybe $1,500 or something like that. I'm like, oh, never mind.
Yeah. But with 3, is that per person, or was that for 3?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I just remember whatever it was, we were trying not to spend a ton of money on this trip. So
yeah,
it was no, if that's the minimum bid, I don't know. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's something that people can always hold out some hope for and give a try. If you got a little flexibility in your budget, but not enough to maybe book it outright, maybe that's a way to get in there.
Yeah. Very cool. Nice.
So we should talk about one of the other important things, which are the restaurants, right?
Yes.
Because there's something like 20 or 26.
I think they say they claim some little eateries, so I think they say something like 29 or 28, but some of them don't count.
Starbucks and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely, let's chat about that, because it's a big part of cruising, I think, for most people.
So we should explain that. So on the Norwegian Bliss, there are 3 main dining rooms where you can get breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's included. So those are Savor, Taste, and the Manhattan room, I believe. We didn't go to the Manhattan room. We did the other 2. And then there are a whole bunch of specialty dining, and those are different cuisines, like, Mexican and Italian and steak and Asian and teppanyaki and barbecue, Margaritaville, all those different kind of cuisines. And those are part of the specialty dining. And with specialty dining, you can usually, with your cruise, you have an option to choose a few different add-ons, and that add-on could be a specialty dining package or an unlimited beverage package or Wi-Fi or credit towards your excursions or things like that. And it depends on when you book. But for example, when we booked, we could choose from 2 packages. And because food was important to us, we chose the specialty dining, but that was just for 2 people. So it included specialty dining. So you had 3 times that you could go to a specialty dining restaurant without it being an additional cost. And then we had to pay for Hannah's specialty dining package of 3. And then after that, you can still go to those other restaurants, but you pay a la carte. So it's just like going to a restaurant and ordering off the menu. Except what I will say is that it is discounted, at the steak restaurant. You're not paying $50-$60 for a porterhouse. You're paying $25-$30. So they do take into account something, I guess, of what you've paid towards the free meal that you're not using, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. And you also forgot to mention there is a buffet as well that's included in that's free for anyone. Yeah.
Right. And we did that for breakfast and lunch a couple times too. So that's free. So there are definitely free options, but then with all these specialty options, you kind of want to try them. Yeah. And so then we ended up trying 5 of them. So 3 were included and 2 we paid a la carte. And I always asked everybody, like, what were your favorites? So we can go through them one by one if you want, or do you have anything to add to kind of that overview?
No, I don't think so. And yeah, so the package specials, they, when I was talking to Norwegian Cruise Line, they say the specialty dining is their number one choice when they do, it's called like pick 2, and it's often like pick 2 from a list of 5 or 6. Sometimes there's promotions that are like you get all 5, and sometimes
I think the Haven gets all 5.
Yeah, the Haven gets all 5. So different categories get you different things. So, but different promotions on certain routes. So if you sign up for their, newsletter, sometimes you'll get different promotions. But most commonly, it's pick 2 of the 5. So yeah, and I believe there's. I'm trying to think. One of them I think is so 3 years ago when we were cruising, they only, like the breakaway, I would say there's probably, I don't know, maybe 8 specialty restaurants. It's certainly not as many as they are doing now. And most of those were a per head charge extra. So like Paul and I went on a date night one time and we went to La Cucina, which was $20 per person. And so it's a little different now. It seems like Norwegian, now that they've kind of added in this specialty dining, option for people, they've gone with an a la carte pricing.
It's definitely pricier too. So like Margaritaville is still a per head, and that's I think $14.95.
But it doesn't include your drinks. Yeah.
No. And then teppanyaki is, I believe, $29.95 per person.
Okay.
So that's a flat fee, which that makes sense because it's pretty much everybody gets the same thing. It's just chicken, steak, or shrimp, right?
Yeah.
But the others are a la carte. And even within the specialty dining, even if you have the package at Ocean Blue, which is their seafood restaurant, even if you have the specialty dining, you have to pay $10 per person on top of having the specialty dining package.
For the seafood, yeah.
Right. Which I expected then that there was going to be like lobster and king crab legs.
Yeah.
But it was not. Like there was like a lobster bisque or a lobster pot pie, but not like I'm just getting a whole steamed lobster or getting crab legs. So I was I was disappointed by that upgrade. I felt like it wasn't the best use of our money because the pricing on the menu was pretty similar to Cagney's. And there was no upcharge for Cagney's. So to me, like you're not making the most of your money, if you go to Ocean Blue. So.
I also thought Ocean Blue had a pretty limited menu. It wasn't extensive. So especially if you're with kids or, if you kind of have any picky eaters, it's a little bit harder to find something you might like.
And it's also one where like they called and they confirmed our reservation and they reminded us the men need to wear a collared shirt, so it's like they look at it as more of their upscale restaurant, and it's a very pretty restaurant. Like I loved the colors of it and the decor, but to me, it would be a skip. The food was fine, but like I didn't feel like I needed to pay that extra $10 on top of having it as a specialty dining.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the biggest surprise that Norwegian has gone that route and talking about, because I'm kind of like you. I almost think of cruises as being all inclusive. And so the fact that, you have to get on board and kind of budget or be mindful about paying for food or eating at certain restaurants, that can be stressful. If you're not, so here's, the side note to that, my kids are happy living in the buffet. They love eating 2 platefuls of watermelon and just doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
And they'll eat, dinner or whatever at the main dining with us if we want. But if you are the type of person who you're not a foodie and you don't really care about trying all the restaurants, then you can still have that all-inclusive experience. And I would even argue that, like you and I experienced, a lot of people go to the buffet for breakfast, but eating in the main dining rooms for breakfast can be very relaxing and peaceful and, nice quality. So,
Yeah, we were thinking of that for one day because, and you can eat breakfast too in Margaritaville, which we didn't do, but it's free. So we did. Yeah, we ended up just always doing the buffet because we were always like either sleeping in or trying to sleep in. At first, we were like getting up at 5 a.m. every day, or we had an excursion and we just wanted to do something fast, and so we did the buffet. But the buffet it's just madness in there. And also, like for people that do like the buffet and do want to go for dinner, they have specialty nights like every night. Yeah, theme nights. It's like prime rib or seafood night or grilled night or whatever. So I could not handle the chaos of the buffet for more than once or twice a day. And they also have the other restaurant that's free is called The Local. And that I think it's open 24 hours a day.
Yeah. And it's
kind of like bar. It's like Irish pubby. Yeah, like a bar.
Yeah.
So that's another option for people that are looking for a less formal, but still a sit down served meal.
And you can also get room service for breakfast. I think before 10 a.m. it's free. There's not actually a surcharge, but you do have a tipping or a gratuity or something that's added on. So I can't recall what it was. Oh, they don't do that anymore?
No, you can, but only a continental breakfast. If you want anything hot, they are only 3 options and they charge for them, I think, $7.95.
Well, never mind that. They changed that for me. I have to change my post now.
I'm doing a whole post on all the add-on costs
that'll be good.
Like you said, like you really expect to have somewhat of an all-inclusive experience, or at least, I mean, like you said, there is still the option, but when you see all these other things, you want to be able to do some of them. And so to me, I did get the feeling of like, oh, another expense, another added cost. So it kind of got me down after a while, and it became almost like a little joke when we're like, oh, of course it is. Because like even when we went to the first night, we went to the main dining restaurant. I think we went to Savor or Taste, one of those. And we were tired. We'd gotten up at 3:30 in the morning. We'd flown to Seattle and we on board, all that stuff. So we were tired and went through our meal. And at the end, like Glenn always gets like a double espresso every time we go out to dinner, like after dinner. This is his thing because he can have that and then fall asleep like 5 minutes later. So he ordered an espresso and they're like, okay, but that'll be an additional, I don't know, like $3.95 or something like that. And he was like, what? And so they're like, yes, our coffees are from Starbucks and they're additional. And so you can have a regular coffee, but if you wanted an espresso or a cappuccino or a latte or something, like not from the Starbucks, but just in the regular complimentary free restaurant, you still had to pay for the coffee. And so we're like, never mind. Like, so it was just one of those things where Glenn, like the whole week felt guilty if he got an espresso, which is just part of his normal routine. So it was just one of those things that was kind of like, like you started, like you said about budgeting, like we started to watch because we'll talk about the beverage package if you want to, but like we liked some of the glasses of wine that were more than $15. And if it's more than $15, then it's not in your beverage plan. You have to pay the difference. So so there was a lot of things where I'm like, oh, I feel guilty if I'm getting the glass of wine that I wanted. But the reason that I picked the unlimited beverage plan was because I thought I could drink whatever I wanted.
Yeah, that's really crazy. And I will say that the Celebrity Cruise had something similar. They had a beverage package that's like non-alcoholic. Then they had one like tier 1 beverage package, and then they had another tier. And so the higher tier, you can pick anything you want on the menu, but the lower tier alcoholic beverage, they were limited to like certain liquors and certain wines and certain beers. So, I will say Celebrity does something similar with that. It's a little different, whereas at least with Norwegian, there's not an option to just say pick anything you want. Instead, they make you surcharge each individual drink. But I agree. I mean, again, you don't want to go on a cruise and feel like you're still nickel and diming. I don't want that. The whole reason I go on a cruise is so that I plan it and book it once and then don't have to pull my,
and also they like they charge a gratuity on every drink that you get. So even when it's part of the beverage package, there's still a gratuity added. So it's like if you have 5 drinks, then you have 5 gratuities added. But you also pay separate gratuity, like a mandatory gratuity, like for the boat. And the same thing with the specialty dining. It says like, an additional 20% will be added, like even when you have a specialty dining package. And we're like, why? Like I'm already paying the overall.
Yeah, you're paying the gratuities that covers your room steward and the wait staff, I assume. I mean, that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is stressful. It's really sad.
Yeah, it definitely made it like you were always thinking about it. And I really think that one of the benefits of an all-inclusive or a cruise is that you don't have to
You just
worry
splurge
about all
when you
those
want.
things.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you want a coffee, you want an espresso after, dinner, you just have it. Or you want a Kahlua and coffee or whatever. I was like, what are they called?
Yeah.
I mean, you just, whatever you want, you just kind of relax and go with it. Right. So, I can see how that would get frustrating. So,
well, and then there are all those like sweet treat places, right? There's Coco's, has like milkshakes and other pastries. And then there's the Dolce
like
Gelato, which has gelato, and they have macarons and like mini cupcakes. And those are all a la carte.
Extra. Same with Starbucks. You want to go to Starbucks in the morning for your coffee drink, and that's extra too. Yep.
And so
it's interesting.
What we did is we would go up, like if we didn't like the dessert options or we didn't want a dessert option when we were having dinner, is we would either go up to the observation lounge where sometimes they would have like some snacks like pound cake or something like that, or we'd just go up to the buffet, and like in the buffet they have like self-serve, soft serve, and then they also have ice cream up there, or they have other desserts. So it's like, well, why am I paying for dessert? Like that's just ridiculous,
Yeah.
So there are ways around that too, but it was just another thing where it's like, I can imagine with a different kind of kid or maybe a younger kid sees like those milkshakes, they'd be like, oh, Mommy, I want that, and like then you'd have to feel like guilty if you said no,
Well,
so
they're
it's
like
just
$10 and $15 milkshakes.
Wow.
They're not like cheap, if I recall, when I looked at the menu. So yeah,
I know like the macarons. I can't remember exactly how much. I took a picture of it, but like the mini cupcake, which is like just teeny little mini cupcake, was $1.95.
Okay.
And I think the bigger one was like $4.95. So, it's just, I think I feel like a macaron was like $3.95 or something, like at least $3. So I'm like $3 for a cookie, like a tiny little cookie that melts in your mouth, so.
So of the restaurants that you tried, what was your favorite one or two?
We loved Food Republic, and we went there and did an a la carte, which I would recommend because it's really not expensive. Like to me, like I would do Food Republic and Los Lobos, were both like not very expensive. So I would just do them a la carte and then save your specialty dining for the more expensive ones like La Cucina and Cagney's. Maybe the teppanyaki. But anyway, Food Republic was great. I just love the vibe. It was very bright. We went for lunch there and we just split a few like small things. Like Hannah had I think it was like a kimchi not pad thai, like a fried rice. And then we had like Korean fried chicken, which was delicious, and just a couple of other things. So it was really, really yummy. I really liked it in there. And then La Cucina was good. I always love Italian, and they did a decent Italian, and that was good. I liked Cagney's, but Glenn thought, it is not the best steak you're ever going to have, but you did get a lot of food and the sides were really good. So I enjoyed it overall. Like it was not the best steak I've ever had, but it wasn't like inedible either. It was fine. So
nice.
Those would be my top three. What about you? What did you try?
We went to Ocean Blue, which again, I'm with you. I probably wouldn't choose that one. And then we also went to La Cucina, which I thought was okay. I fell in love with La Cucina on the Pearl and on the Getaway. We've eaten there both times. And I wasn't as impressed this time as I have been before, but it is good. I like it, and it normally has a fun atmosphere and stuff. So I liked that. But one of the places we ate that I absolutely was my favorite, and maybe this is my Kansas roots showing, is we ate at Q, which is the like barbecue smokehouse. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So we had lunch there with our group, and I thought it was delicious. I loved the like options that they had, and it was really traditional barbecue, like served to you on kind of a cookie sheet tray with a
cool.
liner.
Yeah.
You have your meats of choice and, the pickle spear and baked beans or coleslaw and just a lot of good things. And they also had I think it was a peach margarita or something, peach prickly pear margarita or just peach margarita, something like that. That was a signature drink for them, and it was really beautiful and tasty. And so, I definitely think that's a great place. We had lunch there, but I understand at dinner, it was already booked for dinners, but I think they have live music at dinner because they have a stage set up and everything. And I think once you go past dinner, after like late in the evening, you can kind of come in and treat it like a lounge and pay as you go type thing. So yeah.
Because we walked in there, I think at 9:00 one night, because I don't know if it's not, I guess it's open every night, but maybe not every day, because there were a couple times where we couldn't, like the door wasn't open to it. So we were like, where is this place? But then we walked in there at 9 one night, and people were actually going in because that's where they were doing like their Nashville Jamboree. Like, they have theme nights. Yep. So people were going in there like with their cowboy boots. It's funny because we ran into that group the next day on our hike, and I was like, how did you guys know? And they're like, well, we've been on a few of these, so we know. I'm like, how much do you pack that you bring like cowboy boots and hats, like just for this one night, But Glenn didn't, I wanted to try that one, but Glenn didn't. He's like, I just spent like the last 9 months in Dallas every week. He's like, I don't want to have Texas barbecue. So I missed that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that one was good. So and that one also is new to the Bliss. So a lot of their signature restaurants, like we've said, like Cagney's and La Cucina, those have been around and they get, done on each ship. And I believe Los Lobos and then Q Texas Smokehouse are the two brand new ones. Los Lobos might be on their other one.
We did Los Lobos. It was fine, but it wasn't anything like, I don't know. It was fine.
I love Mexican, so I would have loved that one, I think.
Yeah. And to me, like, again, it was not expensive. And so to go and do it a la carte was easy and fine. Nice. It was just a nice switch because we didn't want to do the buffets for dinner, and we did 2 nights at the main restaurants, but it was just like kind of So, but we're pickier, I guess.
We've normally had pretty good food in the main dining areas, and I thought the Manhattan room was a really nice space.
Okay.
So
we didn't do that one.
Cool, it's like a jumbo dining room, but if you can get on the back wall or the sides, you have kind of that ocean view as you eat and all that. But
one thing I will tell people though is that back of the ship, and especially those dining rooms, are so cold.
Oh, cold.
So cold. Okay. I was so glad that I was towards the front of the boat, because it was like once you passed like the atrium or the casino, like the back of the boat was just really over air conditioned. So every night for dinner when we went back there, I had to have a sweater or a wrap. Whereas when I was in like Cagney's and La Cucina, which is further up, I was okay.
That's
so
awesome.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, maybe it was just my experience, but it never hurts to bring a sweater when you're walking around, especially if you're on the Alaskan cruise, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and I always know motion sickness, like the restaurants that are at the back of the ship, I have a lot of trouble with. So it's always tricky on that. Cool. Well, we are running a little slow or a little short on time, but I think we should quickly just chat about kind of the activities on board. I feel like we should cover this one pretty quickly because I do think that's one area where the Bliss is a miss for me versus like one of their breakaway classes, which is the Getaway. We liked the activities on board better on that ship. So what do you think of the activities?
Well, I'll quickly run through them. We did do the racetrack, just Glenn and I, and that was fun, but it's $9.95 per person, and you have to reserve it in advance, and you have to reserve it like the minute you get on board, and they do close it for weather. So it was fun, but was it worth it? I don't know. And then behind the racetrack, there's like a really like ridiculous kind of mini golf that we didn't even bother. It's like,
I think mini golf, it's like a putting green.
Yeah, barely. Like they just put it there to like, check the box. The laser tag looked like a really well themed done laser tag, and we signed up for it. Again, $9.95 a person, and you have to reserve it in advance. You can do that through those boards, the touchscreen boards by the elevators. But when we went, it was closed for weather, and so we were refunded, but there was no opportunity to reschedule because it just books up in advance. Although I will say, little tip, like if your kid will do the teen club, which we visited, and my teen was like, no, thank you, because she doesn't know anybody, she doesn't want to go by herself, and she's had trouble making friends and like that whole thing. She'd rather just sit and read. And I'm like, fine, I'm not going to push you. But there are some like activities in the teen club. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just like, it's basically a drop-in space where it's like, come in, play air hockey or video games, hang out, come and go as you want. But they do have activities. And one of them was like unlimited laser tag one night at like 10 p.m. So if you did have somebody to go with, or if you wanted to maybe make some friends ahead of time, you can go and then you're playing for free. So that's like a good way to do that. So I didn't actually get to experience the laser tag, but it's, it's cool. But it just seems to me like it's so hard to get into those things that it's almost like they're not there.
Yeah.
And then we signed up to do the Jersey Boys show in the theater because, I mean, I think Glenn and I would like it. Hannah's probably like whatever. But it's like 7:30 or 10:30. And so I had originally picked 10:30 thinking like, okay, well, we usually eat dinner at like 7:30. So I don't want to have a really early dinner or a really late dinner. So we'll just go from dinner to the show. And we were just so tired every night because I don't know why we had trouble adjusting to the time zones. Maybe because we're all so close together. We were waking up early in the cabin. And so we ended up not going to our reservation for the show. So I can't comment on the show. And we weren't really interested in the other one. And I think Glenn popped into like the Beatles show one night, but it was like super crowded in there. And so he didn't stay. And he had brought money to gamble, but then he never felt like it, which I was fine with. I have no interest in like the casino at all. Hannah didn't go to the kids club. So it was really like, we really used the observation lounge the most. And then, walking throughout the ship and their other entertainment things were just like kind of goofy. And so we didn't really do that kind of stuff. So yeah, so we didn't really take advantage of what entertainment there was, I don't think. I mean, I did use the spa and we can talk about that shortly, but otherwise, yeah, entertainment was, I think, a bit of a miss. I feel like, maybe if you have little kids but I don't know. I feel like with teens, it was a bit of a miss. And then, there was a video arcade. And just to go back to the thing, not to harp on it, but just the additional expenses. So when you go into the video arcade, you can just swipe your room card to play games. But it's like, even skee ball was like $1.10 a game. So, just like adds up so fast. Or you can buy a package. Like they sell a package like the first day or two of the cruise, but it was like, I think it was $10 a person, but you had to buy it for everyone in the cabin and it's per day and you have to buy it for the whole time, like for the whole cruise. You can't just buy just
7-day
day
cruise, 70 per person. Yeah.
Yeah. Times 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, right? I mean, just to go play arcade games, so yeah. So to me, it was, like entertainment was, I enjoyed the observation lounge, just kind of sitting in there. It was just kind of crowded a lot. So,
yeah. So, on their other ships, they have a big sports court, which my girls spent time, kids would be up there and they'd end up playing like dodgeball games and basketball games. And my girls do kind of do well with, in like getting into the kids' activities on board. Mm-hmm. And then there's also, like on the Getaway, there's a ropes course, which is kind of cool and lots of fun. And that's free. And both of those are free. And then they also had a mini golf, which I thought was more of a mini golf. And I liked the layout better on the Getaway versus that weird, like 5 different putting greens at the back of the ship, kind of hidden away from everyone that is on the Bliss. So that's one area where we felt like the activities were a little bit of a miss. And just like you said, booking the times for the racetrack, and we did get to do laser tag, which is fun, but we've never played laser tag before, so we got our butts kicked. Like we were like novices. I had no clue what I was doing, and like they had to show us like how we had to recharge our guns. And you can play at a gun-free one, but those are like, somebody on their team had the gun-free one that was called the Hero Blast or something, and it would just hit you and you'd be dead like right then. Like it wasn't like normal ones where you get this you get a couple of shots on you and it takes a while to weaken you. Anyway, so laser tag's fun maybe if you're knowledgeable or if you're playing against people who don't know what they're doing. But if you're playing against like people who play laser tag, then it's probably going to be frustrating. But yeah, so that was that. And yeah, the timing of just like finding a place to book it and stuff, maybe you can do it once or twice, I'm guessing. And yeah, like you said, I mean, if there's bad weather, you're just out of luck. And so I just think the activities like for tweens and teens and kids on board are a little less on this ship. So that was kind of disappointing. My kids did like the teen club, and, they didn't have quite as many of the activities going and doing as much because of the fact that, like I said, we were on kind of a pre-launch special cruise. And so things just weren't quite up and running. And so that's the only disappointment there. But normally they do enjoy that sort of thing. And then we actually did get to see both shows. So we went and saw Havana is the one. And it's based on kind of a, like Cuba dance, Dirty Dancing-esque type, storyline and feel. I definitely felt that it was probably not appropriate for certain, age groups, because there's definitely some suggestive, dancing and term like dialogue and even, music and costuming that just is kind of a little, if you're really conservative, or, if your kids ask you a lot of questions, you might not want to get into those situations of answering those. And then we did see Jersey Boys, which I was really excited about, because on the getaway we have seen Jersey Boys as well, but it was a different one. So what we saw before was more of a tribute kind of and cover band type performance, whereas this Jersey Boys is kind of a Broadway show. And so it kind of tells the story of Frankie Valli and how he got started and how the Jersey Boys got founded. And so it was I really liked it because I viewed it as a Broadway show. So a thumbs up for me on that one. We didn't do there's like a comedy hour. There's a prohibition show that's for adults only.
And that you have to pay for.
Yeah, and that's an extra fee. And you have to book it like when you come on board. And then there's the Beatles show and stuff like that. And we didn't go to those. But yeah, we only had 3 days. So we didn't do quite as much. But yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on the experiences. Now the spa I can talk about.
Yeah, the spa, like I had seen pictures from everyone that did those media cruises. And so I wanted to do the spa, and they sell this, it's called the Thermal Suite Pass, and it gives you access for the whole trip to the spa area, where it's like the steam room, the sauna, the hot tub, they have a salt room, which I tried when I was in Arizona and really liked it, and a snow room like for cooling off, and then these just a really nice area of loungers, including some of these heated tile loungers that look out over the water. And so I was like, oh yeah, I think I want to do that. And I debated back and forth, because the pass, if you buy it online in advance, it's like $249. Although I got one email that said it was going to be $215, but only if you buy online. And then I went to buy it online, and it was like always coming up $249. And I'm like, well, why are you giving me that price? So I ended up not doing it. And I'm like, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to book, instead of doing it like and going multiple times, I'm just going to book one treatment, and then I'll just, spend the day at the spa afterwards. Because usually, like when you're like the spa that we went to in Arizona, like you book a service and you have access to the facilities, for the rest of the day. So that was going to be my plan. So the first thing, like before we even went to our room, I went to the spa desk and I'm like, okay, I want to book a service. She's like, did you want to book the thermal suite? I'm like, no, I think I just want to book a service, and then I can use the thermal suite, right? And she's like, no, that's only if you get a pass. And I was like, what? So I'm like, so I go for a service and I don't even get to use like the sauna and all that. So then I went back and forth, and I'm like, well, I really like that stuff. So I ended up investing in the pass, which then when you buy it on board is even more expensive. But I think you could get away with it. I mean, there was no one like checking you. I mean, unless when they check you out of your service, they like walk you back to the locker room, but there was no one at the door. Like it is kind of separated where the services are versus where the thermal suite entrance is, but there was no one really checking. So maybe you could get away with it. But I was just surprised by that. So then I'm like, okay, well now I need to maximize this thing. So, but I ended up going 3 times, like our 2 days at sea, and then one day when we just had, like when we got into Victoria late, I went then as well.
Was it crowded when you were on the sea days?
It was. So I went in the afternoons, like after lunch, and at first it was very crowded, like where you could barely find any kind of lounger. But then it started to clear out, and I got like one of the heated loungers, and I fell asleep. My gosh, it's stone, it's tile heated lounger, but something about just the heat. Yeah. Those things are great for napping, but they do say like only use it for 30 minutes. But when I woke up, there was someone like, no, there's no one next to me. So I'm like, okay, I'm okay.
Oh, good.
And then the other time, another time that I went, it was the day that we were going to Victoria. We didn't get there until 4. And so I went first thing in the morning, like not bright and early, but maybe at like 9:30. And there was tons of loungers. Yeah. So it kind of depended on when you went.
Nice. Yeah. I really loved that space. I had no idea. Can you buy a day pass, or do you have to buy? Okay. Yeah. So,
because that was my other thing. I'm like, okay, can I just get a day pass for like our day at sea? They're like, no, and she did say that, because this is our first season, we're figuring things out. Yeah. And So maybe that'll change, but I imagine if they sell enough week passes, why would they bother, right?
Yeah, if it's all busy. Well, and if they're promoting it, before you even board the ship, I mean, people typically are like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, so I really enjoyed the time I had in that thermal space. I found the heated loungers a little uncomfortable, but, I wish I maybe would have put like a towel down and then a towel to lay on. It might have made a little bit of a difference, but another benefit for if you are a Haven guests get that as well. So they get the thermal access if you're a Haven guest. Yeah. So that's another place where, if you're adding up all these little extras, that's another one to think about. So, or at least at the time when I got my walkthrough of the Haven, that's what they said. So I assume that's still the same, but some stuff's changed, it seems. So who knows? But yeah, I enjoyed that. And I thought the salt room was nice. And they had kind of the different, like they had the sauna and then they had the solarium and then they had the steam room. And yeah, it was really good. I didn't brave the snow room. And I liked, they had that jetted tub. It's kind of like they had a hot tub, but then they also had a
Vitality pool.
Is that what it was called? Yeah, Vitality pool. And I guess it has these, they weren't all working when we were there. I don't know if they were working when you were there, but like pressurized jets. So you can go over and push a button kind of at the side and it kind of gives you.
Yeah, I ended up not going in there because like the first day that I was there, first of all, it was like just super crowded. Like the hot tub, it looked like, I don't know. It looked like there was a party going on in there. Oh, no. And there was a lot of people in the Vitality pool, but also like we were at sea and the seas were pretty rough. I mean, it was probably like 4 to 5 foot waves, like white caps all over the sea. And so the Vitality pool was like splashing like crazy. It was like, like going like low and then high and low and high. And I'm like, oh, it's going to make me feel seasick, but also I'm going to get like splashed in the face all the time. It's rushing back. I mean, it just didn't look like it was going to be relaxing in there. So
that's a good idea. Good thought.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
that was an experience. Yeah. I mean, overall, I think it's a good boat. It's like, it's hard for me to compare. And it's also like, we realized that probably the big ship cruising is not really our cup of tea, or maybe something shorter. But, honestly, if we're going to the Caribbean, we probably would rather just go to an island.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for us, we really wanted to see Alaska. It was an easy way to do it. It was surprisingly an affordable, way to do it, just because it was a lot cheaper to fly into Seattle than to Anchorage or Vancouver. So that was a good thing. And then, so it was a longer time at sea, which was a con, but, we got to see some of Alaska, and it was exactly what I expected in terms of the itinerary. Like I knew the downfalls of it going into it. But I do think it's important for people to think about like that limited time in port and that you're more time at sea than not, and maybe that's why you decide to go from a different port if you can, or do a one-way, not a round trip. Those are all options when it comes to choosing an Alaskan cruise. But for us, we made that decision, and, and it was overall a good experience. Just one where we're like, okay, like we tried a cruise, we'll probably not do another one right away. This would be like, maybe like a river cruise or something very different. So.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it was great chatting with you. And I think our listeners probably really know about the Norwegian Bliss now, and maybe also learned about things to, think about when they're even picking any cruise, not just if you're on the Bliss. So hopefully people will listen to, this for information about cruising and planning what cruise to take. So very cool.
Good. And we will be back on our regular schedule now, maybe not every week, but close to it. And, Kim and I both have some travel coming up that we'll be chatting about. We have other good topics planned for the fall and other things that will help you think about like both your winter travel and going into spring break. So we have, things, and thank you to those that have written to us sharing some of your summer trips. We're going to figure out how to record those and put together an episode on that. So if you do still have some ideas you wanted to share about a trip that you took this summer, then just reach out to us and you let us know if you want us to either just read an email that you wrote to us or actually be interviewed on the air. So keep those coming, and we'll try to sort that out in the next couple of weeks. But we are back. And also thank you so much to those of you that commented when we have had some episodes over the summer. It was so nice to hear all the we've missed you and so happy you're back. Like that just really was so sweet and so nice to hear.
Yeah, I loved hearing those. Like, I'm so happy you guys are part of my routine and I've missed you. So that was very nice to hear. And if you guys tune back in next week, we are going to be chatting about the Black Hills of South Dakota, otherwise known as the Mount Rushmore area, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So join us then and we will chat with you later.
Take care.